Welcome. I believe today is Labor Day in the United States. So perhaps we can take a clue from that and we can rest from all unnecessary labor. So the suggestion here, this is titled Relax into Health, Wealth, and Happiness, which seems absurd to the conditioned mind, which has learned that the only way is acquisition, attainment, possession, maintenance, striving, a lot of effort. But to relax and really profoundly relax means to give up all of that effort. Now, of course, it's easy to misunderstand. So I want to be clear, this is not about restraint. So relaxation does not mean that no activity can occur. That's, of course, on some level, it's true that there's no activity. But at the level of activity, there is activity. So this is not about mixing levels. So the reality, which is something that you can discover, you can observe this. This is something that's true, but it doesn't do you any good to just accept it as a belief. That reality, which you can see for yourself, and that's the purpose of these meetings, is that these levels never do mix. So it's like when you dream at night, whatever happens in the dream, so you endure great hardship or you enjoy great success in the dream, but upon waking, you realize, oh, none of that is here. None of that affects me. So make that really clear. You say, in the dream, you're attacked. Somebody cuts your body. But when you wake, you look and you realize, oh, I haven't been cut. Or in the dream, you become a billionaire. But when you wake up, you look at your bank account and it's the same as it was before. So the billions of dollars didn't transfer from the dream to the waking because they're different levels. And in the same way, awareness remains untouched. Awareness is not affected by whatever occurs. So we could say awareness, and these are just terms, so don't get hung up on them, but we could say at the level of awareness, we could say is the level of the absolute. It is unchanging, motionless. So there's no activity at that level. Activity is inconceivable. But here in this world appearance, this is the level of activity. So activity is the nature of this appearance. So to relax into health, wealth, and happiness does not mean we have to don't move. Doesn't mean that. That would be the opposite of relaxing. So relaxing is to open so that we discover that we already are that awakeness. We already are that which is aware. And we already are untouched by the activity. So the relaxation is so profound that activity coexists with this relaxation that is so profound that there is no motion whatsoever. Both are coexisting. Just the same as space and objects coexist without space being in any way altered by the presence of an object. So if I take my hand and move it, the space is completely unaffected, whether the hand is in that space or not. They coexist without any problem because they exist at different levels. But if we mix up the levels, which we can't do in reality, but we can do conceptually. If we conceptually mix the levels, then we make the mistake of thinking that we have to do something in order to achieve something. And then we're just in this vicious cycle that we know all too well. So then the question might arise, well, if that's so, hey, if you really get this and you realize, well, you already are that transcendent freedom. So when you recognize that, just as you recognize upon waking from the dream that the dream character that you mistook yourself to be, you were not. You are that which is transcendent of the dream character. In the same way, when you catch this glimpse and you realize, oh, I am that transcendent awareness, then you might start to have this question, well, so is there any change whatsoever at the level of activity upon this realization, or does nothing change? Is it just a matter of just realizing that I am that? Is that it? Is it just realizing I am that which is always free? Is that all there is to it? Well, in a sense, yes. Because if you wake up from a dream, whether it was a nightmare or it was a wonderful dream, doesn't matter. So in that sense, yes, upon this insight, this discovery that I am already that transcendental awareness that is already free, that is always only free, that coexists and remains untouched by this world appearance, then nothing needs to change, because this discovery of who you are reveals that you are already that which you've sought. So nothing needs to change. Nonetheless, at this level of the world appearance, at this level of activity, suddenly there's an appearance of choice. There was no choice before. So it's like a lucid dream. If you're dreaming without realizing that it's a dream, then you have no choice. Why? Because in the dream, Just observe your experience. I hope you're looking to your own experiences. This is all completely useless if you're just thinking about it, but look to your actual experience so that you can recognize it. And see that in the dream is when you identify as the dream character, then you presuppose many things. So I am this, and I have this past, and I have these limitations, and these are the circumstances, and they are oppressing me. And so what will happen? There's a script, and you will just follow that script. No other possibility, because you identify as that which has no sentience. By definition. So what is insentient cannot have choice. It's an impossibility. So instead, what's happening is there's automatic reactivity going on, which is why a nightmare can occur. Because if you wake up to the dream, so if you've ever experienced a lucid dream where you become awake, even though the dream continues, if it's a nightmare up to that moment, the nightmare cannot persist, because the nightmare can only occur so long as you are deluded. If you mistakenly believe that you are the dream character, then you have no choice, so you're only reacting. And that reactivity will only generate more of the same, which has already supposedly happened in the past. Of course, we recognize in the dream, there is no past. The past is complete fantasy, but nonetheless, it appears as though there is genuinely a past that determines this present, moving into the future. And so if we misidentify as that character, that which has no sentience, then all that can happen is automatic reactivity, which will create more of what's already happened supposedly in the past. Even though that's a fantasy, but it will be exactly that, because that's the template that creates the present reactivity. Well, the moment you wake up in the dream, so this is now a lucid dream, you've ceased to make the mistake of mixing levels, because you know all along that you are sentient. You know that you are self-aware. There's no doubt about it. Even in the dream, if somebody says, whose experience is this? You say, mine. So you know that you're self-aware. You can't say it's my experience unless you know that you exist. That's the definition of self-awareness. You know that you exist. You can't claim this as yours unless you know that you exist. So even in the dream, if somebody says, whose experience is this? You say, it's my experience. However, if you're still deluded, you say, when you say my experience, you're referring in error to the dream character. So this is what I mean by mixing levels. You know that you have self-awareness. There's no doubt about it. And yet you make the mistake of identifying as a dream character. We're just talking about in the dream at this point. But lucid dreaming means the dream continues, but you cease making that mistake of mixing levels. Instead of identifying as the dream character, now you realize, I am transcendent of the dream. I exist independent of the dream. The dream depends upon me because it's my dream. The dream does not exist independent of me. I have to be aware for the dream to occur. I lend the dream its existence. It has no independent existence. So now in the lucid dream, you realize, I am that which is transcendent of the dream. Therefore, I know the dream cannot harm me. This dream, I know, is taking place entirely in my mind. On some level, I know I'm lying in bed. I'm experiencing this dream. So it cannot be a nightmare at that point, no matter what happens. People come at you with guns, shoot you with bullets, blood, pain, screaming. All of this could happen, but you know it's a dream, so it can't be a nightmare. So what distinguishes then at the level of the dream a nightmare from a lucid dream? It's not the content per se. But you'll notice that this word relaxation applies. So just this felt sense of yourself. If you notice when you're asleep to the dream, when you're deluded, you identify as dream character, there's a kind of sense of limitation, contraction. You seem to have a sense of yourself being bound by time, because you have a sense that you exist now, but there was a past that oppresses you now and a future that you have to be concerned about. And what do I mean by that? So in the dream, if somebody's chasing you, you have a sense of there's a problem. Well, what is that? That's a sense of being bound. Why? Because you perceive this experience of being chased. There was a past that gives meaning to this. So this is not a game. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this sense of problem. So the past that you imagine within the dream in this scenario, there's an imagined past in which something occurred that is causing this person to chase you, and they have an intention that you're aware of. And then you imagine a future outcome, possible future scenarios. They catch you, that's going to be bad. So you need to escape. So this creates a sense of being bound by time, past, future, which gives context and meaning to the present experience. But that's all imagined. Clearly, that's imagined in a dream. Again, because when you wake from the dream, you realize, oh, it was just a dream. I haven't been harmed. And all of that time that was taking place and all the past and the future, all of that was just in the dream, only in the dream, only in my mind, just in my imagination. But when you're deluded and identified in the dream, then all of that takes on a sense of independent reality. And you have a sense that you are bound by that, bound by time, bound by space. But of course, upon waking, you realize that whole space was also inside of you. It was in your own mind. But when you're deluded within the dream and identified, you perceive, I am this character bound by this space, even though when you wake, you realize that space was always within you. So waking in the dream, we can wake from the dream, but we can also wake in the dream. This is a lucid dream. This is an experience that people sometimes have. So upon waking in the dream, what changes is this discovery, oh, I'm not bound. I'm not bound by any of this. I'm not bound by time or space in this dream world. Why? Because this whole dream world exists within me. How could I be bound by that which exists within me? That which is, I know, is at a different level than my existence. My existence is transcendent of this. So this is perfectly obvious in relation to a dream when we're awake, either from or in the dream. So if you imagine then that you're dreaming, and whatever the content of the dream, whether it seems good or bad, you're awake to the dream. So now you know who you are in a relative sense, not necessarily in the absolute sense, but in a relative sense, you know that you're not the dream character. So you're awake to a reality transcendent of the dream. Now you realize whatever is happening on this, it's like on the screen of my mind. It's like watching a movie, only immersive, virtual reality. So just feel within yourself, feel the difference, because you've had nightmares, so you can recall the nightmare. Feel within yourself the experience of the nightmare, whatever's happening in that nightmare. Feel that, feel how that feels. And you can feel the sense of being bound. And this sense of being bound, who is doing this? You are. So is this relaxation? No, obviously not. So just feel that this is all experiential. Otherwise it means nothing. It's totally useless unless you actually look for yourself and notice in the nightmare. You can recall having had a nightmare. It's an amazing thing. Doesn't matter whether it was last night or from childhood, you can recall this experience. It's an experience of being bound. Something bad might happen. I'm bound. I'm not free. Now imagine that same dream, but now imagine yourself awake as the dream is occurring. So awake, meaning you now know that your existence transcends the dream world. And this is not doesn't require any kind of stretch, because you know this to be true, right? You know that the you who you are identified as presently, you identify as this person now in the waking state, you know that this person exists independent of the dream world. You know that the dream world does not harm you. So this is just common experience. So notice, if you imagine now this dream, which a moment ago was a nightmare, whatever that is, imagine that you are now awake as that dream is continuing, but you now know that you are that which is transcendent of the dream. Just as you know now that you are not whatever you dreamed last night. Same thing. So this is not, I'm not asking you to do anything unusual. It's a very normal thing that I'm suggesting, totally within your everyday experience. So you just notice that you, as you conceive of yourself now, whatever that is, you know that you are transcendent of the dream that occurs. And I want you to just imagine that you have this awareness of yourself as this transcendent self as the dream is occurring. So it's a lucid dream. Just imagine that and notice what's different. Notice how that awareness of yourself, of your transcendent nature, actually changes the experience. And hopefully you notice that you can characterize that change as one of relaxation. Just the same as when you wake up from a nightmare. For that brief moment, there's still that residual anxiety or whatever that is. And then when it dawns on you, that was just a dream. Then there's a relaxation. Prior to that moment, that residual tension is there, and then As soon as you realize, oh, it's a dream, I don't have to worry, there's a relaxation. And it's a relaxation at all levels. It's a relaxation in the body, it's a relaxation in the mind, it's a relaxation in every conceivable way. Because why? Because that whole identity can be let go. That whole story, that whole narrative, all the defensiveness, all of the scheming, all of the planning, all of the worry. What does this mean for me? Oh, what's my future going to be like? Oh, what are they going to think? What are they going to do? How is this going to turn out? All of that vanishes the instant you wake up and realize, I'm not that. So hopefully that's clear. Now, in case you haven't already made the leap, okay, I'm proposing that the same applies in this waking state. And furthermore, I'm proposing that we can actually discover that. So the relaxation is, okay, so this language is dualistic, but that's fine. So I'll say it dualistically and then I'll correct that. But it's both. It's both. Okay, so at this level of activity in the waking state, we can say that this knowledge of self-knowledge, meaning recognition of yourself, your transcendent nature, that recognition causes relaxation in the same way that when you wake up from the dream, you wake up from the nightmare, and then you discover, oh, I am not that. I am free of that. That causes relaxation. Okay. In this, I'm proposing that it works the other way as well. It's two-way. That relaxation causes self-knowledge. That's what I'm proposing. But then I'll say, actually, that's not entirely accurate. Okay, so it's not actually accurate either way at the level of awareness. At the level of awareness, there's only there is never any cause or effect. Also, the relaxation in and of itself doesn't cause, even at this level, doesn't cause self-knowledge. But what I should say, so what I want to say actually is that what it does is it can facilitate, I'll just say if it can facilitate self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is just what it is. It's just self-knowledge. And there are no prerequisites for that. There's no cause of it. But we can create ideal conditions in which we can be more likely to look and recognize. Okay. So with all of that said, I would like to invite you to be very physically restful for the next little while. So allow your body to just become very restful, relaxed, and and free of any unnecessary voluntary action. So again, as I said from the beginning, the stillness that the transcendent stillness coexists with activity. So we don't need to restrain activity to bring about that stillness. The stillness already exists. However, we can more easily overlook that stillness at the transcendent level if we're engaged with a lot of unnecessary, voluntary activity at this transactional level. So allow the body just to become relaxed and still. And you can be curious about how still you can allow the body to be just by relaxing. And how it becomes a kind of virtuous cycle, so that the more that you relax, the more stillness comes about and the more you can relax. So at first, there's so much unconscious and yet voluntary activity occurring that we don't even notice most of it. And so it becomes quite difficult to relax. But when we have the intention to become still in a restful way, then what starts to happen is we become aware of these levels of voluntary activity that we can then voluntarily relax. So it starts to feed into this virtuous cycle of increasing conscious awareness and conscious restfulness. And so I'll just point out some things just by naming parts of the body. And just follow along in your awareness. So just bring your attention to that part of the body as I say the name, and consciously, voluntarily allow that part of the body to become more restfully still, more relaxed. And let me say that just before I do that, that another thing that can occur is that as you become restfully still, what can happen is what will happen is you become aware of those deeper levels of agitation, discomfort. And so don't overdo it. It's funny to say, but you can overdo relaxation. So if you relax too much too quickly, you'll become aware of too much too quickly, and that can be overwhelming. So keep it light and just be gentle with yourself. This is not a competition of any kind. It's just an exploration. Okay, so I'll mention the parts of the body now. And actually, let's close the eyes for this part because it will just make that process a little easier. Tip of the nose, left nostril, right nostril, inside of the mouth, back of the tongue, inside of the throat, back of the head, left shoulder blade, left elbow, left wrist, left palm, left fingers, right shoulder blade, right elbow, right wrist, right palm, right fingers, left side of the chest, left underarm, right side of the chest, right underarm, the space between the shoulder blades, the lower back, the abdomen, the left thigh, the left knee, the left ankle, and the left foot and toes. The right thigh, the right knee, the right ankle, the right foot and toes. So now you can be aware of the whole body from head to toe, and just let the body be as comfortably relaxed and restful and still as possible. And then notice the breath. Let the breath be relaxed so that it becomes comfortable, easy, perhaps pleasurable. So now this state of relaxation, and there's no correct experience, by the way. Whatever you're experiencing is absolutely perfect. Even if your brain is telling you that there are all kinds of problems and that you're not doing it correctly and that you're feeling things that you don't like, it's all fine. Just notice that in this state of relaxation, you are very aware, maybe even more aware in a sense than you normally are. You can notice that you're aware of sound, and you're aware of sensation, and you're aware of thought, and you're aware of any mental images. You're aware of any memories. You're aware of any projection into the future. You're aware of your entire experience. And then just notice that you're also aware that you are aware. You don't have to try to be aware that you're aware. You're just naturally aware that you're aware. You know that you exist. And notice that this is unique. This awareness of awareness is unique because everything else that you're aware of is an object. So you're aware of gross level objects. You're aware of subtle objects such as thoughts and sensations and mental images. All of those objects, whether they're gross level or subtle level, they're all something that you are the subject of and they are the object. So you have a knowledge of that object. You are aware of the thought. But this awareness of awareness isn't the same because you can't see awareness. You can't feel awareness. You can't taste awareness. You can't touch awareness. You can't have knowledge of awareness. Every time you try to have knowledge of awareness, it's like grasping at water with your hands. It just slips through your hands. And in the same way, every time you try to look at awareness or make awareness an object, it eludes you. And still, you know that you are aware. There can't be any doubting it. Even the doubts that might arise, you are aware of those. There's nothing that occurs in your experience that occurs outside of awareness. All experience is occurring in awareness. And it's absolutely effortless. So notice now this awareness is continuous. So it's always the case. Everything else comes and goes. So the thoughts come and go, sensations come and go, mental images come and go. Everything comes and goes. Even the sense of the body comes and goes. In fact, I'm absolutely certain that your sense of your body had entirely vanished for some time in this exploration, whether that was just for a second or longer. Because all objects of awareness are not separate from awareness, and they only exist when awareness is directed at them. And they disappear when awareness is not directed at them. But awareness remains. So notice that you can have a good thought followed by a bad thought. You can have a good feeling followed by a bad feeling. But awareness remains regardless. Not only that, but awareness is continuous even in the interim between thoughts, between feelings, between states, between all experiences. So this awareness is completely continuous and transcendent of all of those experiences. And now notice that you are also always present. And notice that you, and here I'm not talking about the body or the mind, I'm talking about you. When you refer to yourself whatever that is, just notice that's always present. It has to be. It's continuous. That's how you know that it's you. You are the subject. Notice that this, that you are, is continuous and aware. Notice that you cannot find this, that you are, as an object of awareness. You cannot grasp it, hold it, taste it, touch it, see it. And then perhaps you can notice that you are this awareness. There's not a separate awareness and a separate you. There's just one that you are. And notice that, again, all of the phenomena come and go. So they are discontinuous. But you remain continuously, even if the experience is one of blankness. Whatever the experience is, it's all occurring in awareness. You are aware. So now notice this awareness that you are, and just notice if any of the problems of the waking character apply to this. Now, I want you to very slowly begin to explore opening the eyes so that you don't disturb your recognition of yourself as this awareness. So just slowly. And then I want you to notice, I am awake. So this awakeness, this self-recognition coexists with the world appearance. And I want you to be aware that this world appearance, just notice that this is so, is occurring in the awareness that you are. You don't need to think about it right now. If you try to think about it, you'll just get mired in doubts. And we can address the doubts, and that's fine and appropriate, but just for a moment, don't think about it. Just notice. So that there are latent doubts, and if you start thinking about it, the doubts will present themselves. And we'll address those in a little bit, but for just this moment, before you do that, just notice the direct experience. Just notice that you are aware, you are awake, and all of this is occurring in the awareness that you are. Is there anything that's occurring outside of awareness? This whole experience is occurring in awareness, and you are that awareness. Just stay with the simplicity of that direct experience for a moment. And let that kind of take hold, because that's the waking up. You don't wake, if you don't let that take hold, then you fall back into slumber, the slumber of the mind. But if you let that take hold, then it's like the seed is planted. The seed of awakeness is planted, and something starts to shift even at the level of mind, because there starts to be a recognition that this mind is also none other than awareness. It occurs in awareness. It exists in awareness. Its substance is awareness. There's nothing apart from awareness. Just as there's nothing in the dream that's apart from that awareness of the dream, so too, there's nothing here that is apart from the awareness of it. So even the mind, even the thoughts, even the body sense, even the identity as this person, all of that exists in awareness, not separate from awareness, just the same as the dream. So we want to allow for that awakeness to take hold. So just again, for just a moment, don't think about it, just rest in this awareness with eyes open, recognizing that all of this, clearly, this isn't a thought, this is a direct experience, very common experience that we typically overlook. Just notice that all of this is occurring in the awareness that you are. There's nothing here that's outside of awareness. And let that, again, just let that take hold, because that wakes you up. It helps that awakeness to enter into this level so that you start to be awake to this, awake in this, awake without having to make this disappear. And then notice, as you are allowing that, notice your sense of yourself. Doesn't your sense of self remain more relaxed? Isn't it like waking from a nightmare and realizing, oh, I'm okay? If you allow it. If you give too much attention to the doubts too quickly, then you overlook it and miss it. But if you just allow it for a moment, just allowing yourself to remain open, letting something really, truly new enter, something from beyond this world. Just the same as something beyond the dream enters when there's a awakening within the dream. In the same way, something from beyond this enters into this, which is conscious awareness, self-awareness, self-knowledge, that I am that transcendent self that remains untouched by whatever occurs. So the illusion of bondage dissipates. And then there's starts to be freedom of choice. You can start to recognize those habits, latent tendencies that previously generated the nightmare, but through being aware of them, there's choice. Oh, I don't have to. I don't have to misperceive myself in that way. I don't have to falsely bind myself by believing that story of myself. I know that I am ever free. So that's the formal exploration for today. And for those who are here live, we'll stay on for a Q&A. So I will end this recording now. As usual, just be aware the Zoom announcement will happen when I stop the recording. That can be, I think Zoom is a louder talker than me. So don't be startled.